Hi everyone and welcome to Smack. We hope you enjoy our newest episode. If so, leave us a thumbs up and you can also share your comments or ideas for future guests below in the comment section. But now, enjoy the show.
I'm Ronisha Goodwin and this is my Smack episode.
Hi everybody and welcome to your newest Smack episode. My name is Philip Ibrahim and today I had the immense pleasure to speak to Ronisha Goodwin, who told us how Hyatt interprets the word equity, who her favorite comedian is, and how one Ohio Buckeye greets another one. Enjoy the show. Super nice. Hey, Ronisha, I'm super thrilled to have you on the podcast, not only because tomorrow we're going to be sharing a panel. We are in Los Angeles, and yes. I have to say off by saying Happy Pride because it's Pride Month.
Happy Pride.
It's super great to have you. We're in the Fairmont Hotel in Los Angeles, and we're going to be on a conference called Proud Experience tomorrow and experiences. And I asked you, because we've never met before, if you would be okay to make a podcast, and your reaction was, yay! Never have done it, but yay! That was great.
I'm like, let's try this. This will be my first one. I felt like we had an instant connection. And so I'm like, let's do this. I think this will be cool.
I fully agree. And I have so much to talk about. And I got so many questions. So probably we'll start off with what you do. Because you have a very, very unique role within the Hyatt organization, right?
Yes. My title is Director of Global Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for Hyatt Corporation. And so what I do is I foster the feelings of inclusion and belonging for Hyatt guests, colleagues, and customers across the globe.
So literally it's for all the stakeholders, so everything that is related with people that has to be touching on your desk at some point.
Yes, everything that has to do with how Hyatt shows up. Both within the organization as well as outside of the organization from a DE&I lens.
I think it's a full day that you have, so thank you again for taking the time to sit with me.
It's an interesting job. Never a dull moment.
Hey, before we talk about what that means for Hyatt, we have a huge audience of people that always is keen on hearing how careers have been going. So how did you, I don't want to say end up because it's for sure just a step now.
Yes.
But how did you end with Hyatt and in that role?
Sure. So my journey is one that I'm going to be very honest with you, is somewhat prescriptive.
Wow.
Okay. So I knew pretty early on I wanted to work in the hospitality industry. I know that not many people are television watchers, but I'm a television watcher. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so growing up, there were a couple of nights that I could stay up late. And one of those nights was a night when a television show called Hotel would play. And the actress was gorgeous and she wore high heels. And I was like, I want to be her, right? And I want to work in a hotel. And so...
And what age was that? Do you remember?
I had to be maybe 7 or 8.
Wow, that's early.
It was pretty early, but I remember...
Makes it 20 years ago, so it's okay. Yeah.
Exactly 20 years ago, right? And so I remember her just looking so poised and put together. And so it's so many people who work in hospitality that I tell that story to, and they're like, I loved that show. So I think that there's a population of us who were watchers of this television show Hotel. And so I always knew I wanted to go into hotels, and that's what I studied in school. And very fortunate that Hyatt has a management training program. And so I went straight from college to Hyatt. Wow. I started as a management trainee, and Hyatt is the only company I've ever worked for.
So loyalty is a big anchor there.
Loyalty, but truly, when you look within Hyatt, tenure is one of the things that is our strength. So I used to think that I was the Hyatt baby because I would look at people who were like 30 years in, 45 years in. And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like,
how could that be 40 years in?
How
when
could
you
that
start your
be?
career, and that's a long time, yeah.
Right? But so many leaders at Hyatt, they start as interns and then they become management trainees and they move their way up. Some start as doormen or bell persons and move their way up. So it's definitely a company where people stay.
Detention is a big thing as well. We can talk about that later as well, especially now in that time where we're having this kind of stuff, so a shortage. It's important to have that, what you say, in terms of it. But here's the point why we connected instantly. It's very similar to me because I'm not from a hotelier or a family. So I started very early and I realized that's what I'm going to do when I was 19. So it was clear. I always went on this path. And the second thing is I stayed 18 years with Accor. So I started my journey there. So you're speaking to somebody, I totally understand what you mean. If you're happy with the employer, if you feel valued, and if you see a possibility of progress, there is no reason really to keep moving when you don't need to, huh?
Exactly. You know, in my time with Hyatt, and when I look at my friendship group, I'm the only one in my friendship group who has been working for the same organization that they started working with in college. But the great thing about Hyatt is that there's movement. So even though I've been working at Hyatt, I've worked for 6 different hotels. And then I transitioned to the corporate side and I've worked on 4 different corporate teams. And then now my role in DEI.
It's amazing. So it means that you can let's say relook your career at some points, and then as well relocate, which is always in our industry probably a bit important. Hey, I'm again looking into my career. If you have been that long with the same company, how important is mentorship? Is that something that you see as an importance?
So important. You know, when I think about my mentors, I've been really fortunate to have amazing mentors who have been the people who believed in me and said, you're ready. This is your next job. This is your next opportunity. And not just mentored me, but also advocated for me. And that's what I think is so crucial. It's one of the things that I try to do today. I serve on an advisory board of a student-run organization because I personally believe that others gave their time for my development. And so it's, you know, my responsibility to give back and do the same.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's why you might be at the perfect role for what you do, because that's exactly what is important. But you said it earlier, they guided you as well. So it's as well a moment where you felt like they pushed you into an opportunity. I know my mentor, for example, he once said, hey, you could go on a bartending school. That's good if you go there for fun. But for your career, stop that rubbish.
Completely.
Just do this.
Completely. You know, when I think about even my move to the corporate office, I was working for a leader who I absolutely believed in. And I was, I felt confident. I had been a director of human resources for a year. I had decertified a union. And so I was ready to just kind of go into year 2 and be settled a bit. And so I received a call to consider an opportunity at the corporate office. And I went to him and I said, I'm not going to apply for that job. And he said, what do you mean you're not going to apply for the job? And I said, I'm happy here. Like, I don't want to leave you. I love our team. And so he was like, yeah, that's unacceptable. And so what's so interesting about it, because the perfect mentors are also generous. And he told me, close the door. And so I closed the door and he said, it's not official yet, but I'm going to get promoted and I'm going to a bigger hotel. So I cannot allow you to stay here for me. You have to take this opportunity. And when you think about consistency, it would have been in probably the hotel's best interest to both keep the director of human resources and the general manager and not have both of us exit at the same time. But he very much was an advocate for, this is your opportunity. You may not get this opportunity again. You have to apply for that job. And if you don't get it, you have this great one. In the end, I did get the position, which was great. And it started my career on the corporate office. And it really changed my perspective because when you're working at one hotel, you're focused on the success of that one hotel.
Yeah.
And then going to the corporate office, you begin to really understand the organization. And it's different in so many ways because it's not about the one hotel. It's about the hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And so it's so much bigger, and you feel like your impact is just so much stronger and deeper and more meaningful.
And I think probably you get as well a 360 degrees on view on things, because something for that hotel in Iowa or wherever might be super important, but for your partner hotel in Berlin or somewhere else, when it's global, and on global terms, they have totally different needs. So it gives you as well a broader horizon at some point, huh?
Completely. You know, I'm based in the United States, but I am an Army brat. And so my mom was in the military. Many people think my dad was in the military, but my mom was in the military.
Strong.
Exactly. She's an amazing woman.
Gives a lot of indication why you are how you are and how you come over.
Completely, right? Like, to look at me, you would know. So I left the United States at the age of 5.
Wow.
And then I came back at 12. And so we lived abroad. We lived in Germany.
Oh, nice. Where?
Stuttgart and Heidelberg.
Stop it. That's my home city.
Really?
Stuttgart is my home city.
Yes.
I can talk about sports now an hour, because my team just made it to the first league again, because they were about to be going to the second league. But we just beat Hamburg yesterday night, by the way.
Congratulations.
Super happy. Yeah, great.
I love that.
And that's where I'm born, in Stuttgart. So.
Yeah. So I grew up in Germany, and then we came back to the United States. I was 12. And it really changed my perspective in so many ways, because growing up, I did not see people in terms of race and ethnicity, because your community is
super diverse.
It's super diverse, right? And in so many ways, you're American, right?
I know what you mean. I mean, yeah.
And so,
especially in that area like in Stuttgart, where a big part of you have a huge community. The American community is so important for the whole region there. So yeah,
exactly. So, you know, it made an impact on me because of the fact that coming back to the United States, we moved to Akron, Ohio, right? So Midwestern. And it shaped me in so many ways because of the fact that I have an understanding of the global citizen, but then I also have an understanding of Middle America, Midwestern values.
The impact of a decision.
What's important to them. And so it really allowed me the opportunity to connect to a diverse group of people, because yes, everyone has unique needs, but at the core, I truly believe that people want to be loved and they want to love.
Exactly. They want to feel like they are somebody. It doesn't really matter. That's not always clear on how big the role should be. They want to see in the role that they're fulfilling. I fully agree. That's
Completely.
A good point. Hey, but now you in your private life, you still live in Ohio? Is that where you live?
So no, I do not live in Ohio anymore. I love the great state of Ohio. I graduated from the Ohio State University, which you know. And so with my career with Hyatt, I've lived in Florida, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. And then I moved to New Jersey, and New Jersey is home for me now.
Okay.
Oddly enough, I was born in New Jersey. My family is in New Jersey. I never really felt connected to New Jersey because of the fact that I traveled so much as a child. So I claim home to be Ohio. My mom despises that because her second husband was from Ohio.
Okay.
And he is no longer her husband.
Okay.
And so she very much will say, you are not from Ohio, right? But I am. It's where I grew up. And so I consider Ohio home.
Yeah, and I understand that feeling fully. I live in Berlin, and my house is in Berlin, so to say.
Yes.
But I'm from Stuttgart, so my home. It's a difference between home and living. So I do understand that story very much.
It's such a hard it's so hard because of the fact that I think growing up, we feel a connection to a place.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so when people say, well, where's home for you? I think that's the perfect question, because home for a person is really subjective and based upon them, right?
True.
So even though I was born in New Jersey, home for me is Ohio. I feel very at home there. More and more now that I've been living in New Jersey and I own a home in New Jersey, right? I guess I have to admit that New Jersey is home.
Yeah.
But I'm from Ohio.
Yeah, I understand. Well, you mentioned it in a small sentence. So you got your soccer team is still. You would say that your university team is still much at your heart, right?
So yes, anyone who graduated from a Big Ten university, very much feels a lot of pride around their university. I think anyone who graduates from a university that has a big college football,
a sports team in general,
team following. And so in Ohio, we are Buckeyes. We love the Buckeyes. And so that is who we root for.
Hey, I have to say, for a lot of people who are not familiar to American sports, challenge me, I am. You would not understand, because the system in Germany mainly is totally different. You have sports teams which are not connected always to your school or university.
Okay.
So you have like my team, Stuttgart, that's a team. They do sports. It's not connected to a school. But in the States, and what people sometimes forget is the college teams, they attract 100,000 people when they play in a home field, when they have the possibility. There's 80 to 60,000 people watching a college football team winning, and they're so supportive. Like back in our home, the Pro A teams, and then that carries on to the NFL or NBA, where you have a similar situation, but there you have teams comparable to what we have in Europe. But the underneath laying thing with the schools is so unique in the States. So you're saying a Buckeye, and we know it because in Germany we can watch their games, by the way, as well.
I didn't know that.
Yes, there is a huge NFL growing football fan scene. That's why we had 2 amazing games in Munich last year. This year, actually, Tom Brady played in Munich
really
against the Seahawks. Yeah, so we watched it, and especially the college finals usually are quite live broadcasted and everything. So we know we football fans know the Buckeyes. So it's quite.
I love that. That is so awesome. Yes, being a Buckeye is part of my identity, and
so you go to games still when you have a chance.
I go to games still. My friends and I go to games. My best friend and my college roommate still lives in Ohio, so I still go back to Ohio pretty often.
I love it. I mean, sports is as well something very connecting, because sometimes there is no. The team is your your meeting point. It doesn't matter who you are, where you work for. When you root for a team, you hug people that you might not see anywhere else. So
exactly. Sports connects us.
Yeah, true.
Very much.
So how is your life in New Jersey, or your daily life when you're not working? I mean,
oh my goodness,
there is moments where you're not work, I assume,
yes.
even though it's a lot. But how does it look like? What do you do when you?
Phil, you really? We're going to go here.
Yeah.
We're going to go here.
Yeah. Nobody, we're under us. It's just us two. Nobody's listening.
No one's listening to us. So dating in New Jersey, first of all, you need to know I'm a lazy dater. Okay. And that is truly what it is. I'm a lazy dater. And so what do I mean by being a lazy dater? This is the ideal situation, right? I would like to be on a plane, flying to wherever I need to go to for work, and have the perfect partner for me sit down next to me and we meet. Lazy dater.
Because you are forced in that moment. There's no running away.
And there's no effort to it, right? There's no app. There's no swiping. Yeah. It just kind of happens.
Yeah, I want to clap my hands and say, sorry, I have to wake you up. It's
Shush,
not. It's
don't
just,
say that, Philip. Don't
dream.
say that. Don't say that.
But on the other hand, it means there's always a possibility that this happens. Because if you have a job like yours or ours, where you travel a lot,
yes,
there is always the moment of meeting people that are not binded by apps or things to do or bridges to fulfill or questions to answer.
True.
So sometimes you just meet people, and I think if you're an open person, that is good. good. I'm not sure about New Jersey.
Don't talk about New Jersey. New Jersey is also a great state.
There's a lot of Italian. For me, New Jersey
there's a lot of
yeah.
Italian. You know, New Jersey has such a bad rap, and people think Jersey Shore, etc. But New Jersey is the Garden State. It's a
It's behind the coast, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. It has beaches. New Jersey is a great place. Now, the dating piece, we'll see.
I mean, you're young. Come on, there's enough time for you on the
Thank
market.
you.
So
I take that.
And but it means that when you are in New Jersey, so is there? I mean, the Buckeyes are far away. So what else do you do then? I mean, you going to the shore every day?
Okay, so
fishing?
No, not fishing. Not fishing at all. Things that I love. So I love to hang out with my friends.
Yeah,
right?
you're a people's person. It's clear
exactly
to be seen.
Right. Love to hang out with my friends, and so there was a quote from a comedian that I love. And so he says, I just enjoy hanging out with my friends, eating bad foods, laughing, and being myself. And so that just kind of summarizes exactly what it is.
Who said that? Who is the comedian?
The comedian is Kev on Stage.
Kev on Stage.
Yes. He has a following on social media, and I love him and his family. And so that's what I think about. So if I'm not working, I am likely traveling to see my friends in some way. I'm spending time with my family. I'm a huge family person. My mom lives 0.5 miles away from me.
Oh.
Right.
So she moved there or you moved closer to her? How is that story?
I moved closer to her. So at the time that I purchased my house, I was traveling probably like 75% of the time.
Okay.
And so I needed to be as close as possible because of the fact that I needed an assistant. Like I needed someone to help me.
With the flowers.
Yes. Flowers, deliveries, all of those things. Like I think the piece that we don't talk about as women is that we need help with making our lives work, right? And I think that that's even greater for women who are caregivers. But I also think it is the case for women that have big jobs.
Yeah.
And I don't have children, but my life is a big life. And so I think as women, we don't talk enough about how we make our lives work. And instead, we look at other women and we think, wow, she has it all together. But we're not looking at the resources that she's able to have access to in order to make it all work. So for me, Hyatt gives me the flexibility to live in New Jersey, which is great for me, even though the corporate office is in Chicago. So I have that flexibility. I'm 0.5 miles away from my mom. My favorite aunt lives 0.5 miles in the other direction. My brother...
Are they talking, your mom and your aunt?
My mom and my aunt talk.
So they can meet at yours. Perfect.
Exactly. They can meet in the middle. And then my brother, who I love and adore, he purchased a home too far, 20 minutes.
Wow.
And so in a perfect world, we would like him around the corner as well. So very much a family person, family unit. But if it's not family, then I'm traveling for friends. I'm traveling for experiences and new restaurants and things of that nature.
Now you said it. A social network is so important, and I mean, I can relate to that. The more I have a kid, my son is 8, and I'm 50% of the time alone. So but he's 50% with his mother, 50% with me. So a social network, a support system that is there to help you. That's a super important thing, and sometimes I think it might be underestimated, and I can see it from those who don't have it. We made fun about flowers, but it's a basic thing. You don't want to come home and all your flowers are dead.
Completely.
That's a big thing.
That was the hardest piece for me during COVID, because I've always had a job that involved travel. So I never had to worry about not seeing people because of the fact that I always had access to people, right?
Yeah.
So I could travel to hang out with my friends. And that's a lot of what I do, is that piece. So
at least you were close to your family as well during COVID? Huh?
And that was the blessing,
Yes,
right?
I understand.
But I will tell you, I love these people so much. But when you're in a bubble and you're looking at them and you're like, you are the only people I'm going to see, right?
Absolutely.
You question the love.
I agree.
So super happy that our industry is back and people are traveling.
Yeah.
I feel like people are so excited to get together that I am traveling more now than I was before the pandemic, which is wild to me.
Yeah, because it was already a lot, huh?
Yeah.
I really like how you give trust to your inner circle and how you receive trust as well. You mentioned a lot of times that this trusting is one of the things,
Yes.
around your family and stuff. I have to say, I think last year for the first time I experienced a Thanksgiving in the States.
Really?
Yes, it was my first time, and I have to say, it again changed. I know how important this is for you, coming together, being social and having this close bond. So I think it's great, even though, you might discuss about New Jersey, but being around them is still great. And you can always stay a Buckeye in your heart. Huh?
Yeah. You don't have
to
to live in Ohio to be a Buckeye. We're a Buckeye in good and bad times.
There you go. That's exactly how sports fans do. Hey, let's take us back a bit to your role or your job. You mentioned earlier the word human resources, and I like to challenge you on that. I hate the word human resources itself.
It's very traditional.
Yeah. How do you relate with that? Because it's not in your title now anymore.
No,
but why is it human resources for?
So ultimately, my functional expertise is human resources. And the way that I grew up in hospitality was through the human resources function. And so when I first started working in the industry, I thought that the only option was front desk, right? Like that is what I knew of a hotel. And so I very much was like, okay, I'm going to go and work at the front desk of a hotel. And similar probably to you, where you have to go and do a stage. When I was in college, I had to do an internship. And so I was very fortunate. I went to a hotel in downtown Columbus, Ohio, and I went to interview. And what was so awesome and so much of opportunity sometimes is just being in the right place at the right time. And I interviewed for a front desk internship, and the HR director said, "We would love to have you do your internship here. However, I just lost my assistant, and while I'm looking for someone, would you be willing to work in my office and start your internship in the human resources office?" And, who's going to say no?
It's like lazy dating, huh?
Shush, don't say that.
No, that's what you mean. You came in, there was an opportunity.
I came in, there was an opportunity,
Amazing.
right? And so no one's going to say no. So I said yes.
Yeah.
And what I learned through working in human resources is that within hotels are people who look like me. I identify as a Black woman, and there were Black and brown colleagues who were working in hotels. And I didn't know at the time until I started working in hotels, the level of literacy, the lack of information. And I realized small things. So at the time of that hotel, there were colleagues who did not have any type of bank account. And so they were using...
They paid cash. They paid out cash, yeah.
Well, not cash, but they were using what is what would be referred to as a check cashing.
Check
cashing service, right? And so they would take their paychecks to a check cashing service, and the check cashing service would charge them.
Wow.
Right? But they didn't have a bank account, right? So where else were they going to go? And so when I think about the fact that I've had a bank account all my life, I remember going to the bank with my mom and starting my account, right?
Yeah, me too.
And so I thought about it and I'm like, wow, they don't have a bank account. And what if we had someone from a financial institution that is nearby come to our orientation, and in orientation sign up new hires for checking accounts and savings accounts and get them started. And so that was really my first realization that my gift is not necessarily to guests. My gift is to colleagues. And so, yes, human resources is a very traditional term. Now they call it, director of people or director of the colleague experience. But ultimately, I believe that that's my gift. My gift is to provide resources, provide access to everyone. So at my core of my professional expertise is people and ultimately human resources.
I love it. Yeah, I like you're a facilitator and facilitating this service. I've never thought about that because, with Germans, we have these rules. You cannot work without a bank account. You cannot do, there is some sort of frameworks that are given. But I remember from a friend who worked in the States who explained me that cash checkout things, especially for parts of the industry like housekeeping that might be outsourced and stuff like this, where it's a different way of procedures. So I love that. Yeah, I understand. But you said as well, or you said it earlier, so people team and helping them, facilitating, that's the identification of the role that you're doing now. So really giving everybody the same voice. Can you probably explain to us a bit why this is important? And I always want to say, for us in Germany, we're following a path there. In the States, this diversity role that you are holding is very much common. In Germany, we're still on our way to having feel-good managers or people who really are there for the teams or the focus of the teams, because we always say a happy team provides a better customer service. At the end of the day, it is the root of what we do. So why is it so important to Hyatt and in your role as well to have that?
Sure. So my role is diversity, equity, and inclusion. Within Hyatt, we're very focused on the E, which is equity. Yeah. And so equity is interesting because of the fact that equity is the recognition that we don't all have the same starting place. We don't have access to the same resources. And so for most people, they'll say, well, you need to treat everyone the same. And okay, in theory, that makes sense. But realistically, how am I caring for people if I'm not meeting their unique needs? And that's what equity is. Equity is the recognition that we are not born from the same place. We don't have access to the same resources. When I talk about the fact that it was really astounding to me to see people who were adults who didn't have checking accounts or financial literacy, right? And so that's access. Someone has to teach you that, or someone has to give that to you. And that's what equity is. Equity is the recognition that we all don't have access to the same resources. And that is at the heart of our work, is for us at Hyatt, is what can we do to create a more equitable industry and a more equitable society?
I feel like there is a connection between this importance of equity and the tension that you have mentioned earlier, that people stay a long time with Hyatt, right?
Yes.
If you really empower them in the beginning, they are willing to stay longer, work harder, work better, be more part of this whole global family, right?
Completely. Yeah. Within Hyatt, we have a really high retention rate. And people say to me all the time, why do you stay? And when I think about the reason why I stay because Hyatt is the company that is the same for me inside the organization and outside of the organization.
So it's authentic in what they do.
It's authentic. Yeah. And so how I'm treated as a colleague and what Hyatt says about guests, it's exactly the same, right? And so because I feel seen and respected and cared for within the organization, that's what leads me to stay with Hyatt. And I believe that that's what contributes to the reason why many people stay at Hyatt and, we have high retention rates because of it.
Okay. That's great. If you look at Hyatt and in the role that you have, it's a lot of work I hear out. How big is your team? How do you organize that? How do you structure all these work things?
So our team is pretty interesting in the fact that at the corporate office, we are a team of 3.
Wow.
So team of 3 at the corporate office who lead global DE&I. And then we have experts who are DE&I experts within the region, right? So,
but they're not part in a hotel. They're part of one hotel in the region, and that could be. I mean, could that be the front office manager who is the DEI trained expert, or is that a separated role from everything you do?
So a separated role.
Wow.
So we have a regional vice president of DE&I and talent who is over EMI. She's based in Zurich. And then we have also a regional vice president of talent management, and that includes DEI, both for the Americas as well as Asia Pacific. Okay. So there are counterparts in every region, because I think you hit it on the head earlier when you talked about the fact that Germany, Europe is still growing on their inclusion journey.
Absolutely.
Right. And so the regional vice president for DEI and EMI is the person who is the subject matter expert for that region. I am the subject matter expert for global.
Got it.
And for the organization. So ultimately, we have global initiatives, but they're brought to life through regional action. And so the regional person is the person who is responsible for what does this look like in the region?
How can I translate that into my language, which fits exactly in what you do, because sometimes something might be more important or different, has a different importance in one of the areas than in the other one.
Yeah, completely. Yeah. So for example, in the United States, our focus is on both women and people of color. Race and ethnicity are only tracked in the United States. So therefore, people of color and our goals around the advancement of people of color in key senior leader roles is very focused in the United States. Outside of the United States, our focus is on women. And so how can we elevate women in key senior leadership roles? And so that is what we're focused on in EMI, in Asia Pacific. And that's the advantage of having a subject matter expert in every region, because they're able to focus on the needs of that region.
So you have a global network of experts who could be as well tapped on when you have a question for a market that is far out of the state. Yeah,
exactly.
Great. Hey, how do you see, it's probably a bit spiritual, the future of our industry, or the future in general of everything that we do? We talked about it earlier briefly. We're facing the problem that finding the right talents and then probably training as well from the get-go, from the beginning, gets more difficult, I think, everywhere I go, whoever I speak with. How do you see the future of our industry evolving in that sense?
Yeah, I believe that the future of our industry is going to be a flexible one. You know, when I think about when I first started in the industry, it was very clear in regards to how you were expected to work, right? So the idea of remote work, the idea of a flexible schedule, those things did not exist.
Grooming standards per gender.
Yes, right? Yeah. Removing gender from grooming standards. Like when I first started in the industry, it was like, what are you talking about? Yeah. You know, these are the specific guidelines for the role. And so when I think about our industry, I think about our industry being even more flexible, because we have to reimagine the way that we work. 100%. When we think about introducing the next generation of hotel leaders to our industry, they will demand different things from us. And so whereas maybe you or I, we were more willing to compromise on personal time off. We were more willing to miss out on certain occasions. I think that priorities shifted. I think the pandemic led to a huge priority shift. And I think that the losses that the industry experienced in regards to talent has led us with the opportunity to really reimagine what work looks like for our industry, because we can do it. You know, it's just a matter of, do we want to do it, and who truly wants to be the employer of choice?
I love what you say. I'm literally hanging on your lips because it's so great to hear that, and it still leaves the question. I mean, there's you, there's me, there's probably a ton of other people, but are we already enough in that mindset to change the future for our hospitality and our industry? How could we make sure that more leaders understand that the empowerment of staff and probably listening to what they need might be the key? Script might be is the key.
Yes,
to the future.
key.
How can we inspire more of them to understand that you cannot stand there and say these young people, they don't want to work as hard as before. You know, I still hear my grandfather and my grandmother in my ear saying, this music that you young people listen to, this is rubbish and stuff. So we're doing the same at the moment.
Completely.
How can we overcome that?
I think we have to change our mindset.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because why do we have to share struggles?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So just because maybe we worked 7 days a week, I didn't work 7 days a week, by the way. But if we
one day was the Buckeyes playing, so
exactly. Right. Exactly. And at Hyatt, we don't work 7 days a week. But ultimately, why do we have to share struggles? So when you think about the way that you were led as a young manager, and the way that people spoke to you, or maybe the way that people coached you, or even the amount of time that you had to wait for your next role because maybe your leader said, you know, I was in that position for 36 months. So you'll be ready for your next position in 36 months. Right? But why is that the case? Why do we have to share struggles? And so I think that the mindset shift is us realizing that, yes, that was what we experienced, but do we want that for those that are coming up behind us? And so that is what's going to take radical change, is questioning why things are and not making assumptions that it can't be changed, because everything can be changed. And so I think it's truly about the mindset of the leader. And then I also think it's about the individual who is coming up as well, right? I don't know about you, but I feel like, you know, 3 years ago, Hyatt set forth very specific commitments called Change Starts Here. And it's our commitment to do more in the industry and to really use our influence, right? And so this was so amazing because our CEO, Mark Hoppelmazian, said the words that he had never said before. And so those words were Black Lives Matter. And he explained at the time that he always felt responsible for all lives across the globe. And so he was hesitant because he said, I'm responsible for everyone, right? And then he said, I realized through my inclusion journey that me saying the words Black Lives Matter does not negate the value I have and the responsibility that I feel for all colleagues, right? And as a Black colleague at Hyatt, I have never felt more seen, right? And so I think that is what is going to move our industry forward, is that level of advocacy, because colleagues need to know that we care about more than just, are they coming to work, right? And so if
just the resources part of their work.
Exactly, right? Because if we're going to care for people, we have to care for every aspect of their lives. And so how can I expect you to come to work if I have not addressed the things that are going on and the things that you're experiencing within your community? And so that's where I think our industry is changing, in the fact that our colleagues, it's not enough for them, my opinion, to hear that you value them internally. They want to see that you value them externally. So that's the reason why our LGBTQ plus colleagues, they want to see that we support them publicly and that when things happen in their community, we're the first to say that discrimination is bad for business. And so there's no way that our industry can continue to not address these pieces because of the fact that people need to be able to bring their whole selves to work. And so whereas maybe you or I were made to feel like we had to fit into this box, right?
Yeah.
Why does that have to be the struggle of the next generation?
Yeah. It's absolutely clear. Wow. I really understand that. Hey, knowing all, listening to you, who would you consider your role model? Because I think one of the big reasons why I'm super happy to have you on the podcast, amongst being an amazing guest, we want to give more, we want to show more role models, more diversity as well in the way we think. Who was a role model for you?
Oh my gosh, I've been so fortunate to have amazing role models. So one of my role models, and I think about it from the standpoint of sometimes people think that mentorship or mentors can only be one person.
No, they cannot. Yeah.
Right? You can have more than one. So my personal mentor is a doctor who I met when I was probably 14. And she is a Black female. Right. And she's amazing. And so she was the person that, so ultimately, and I'll back up a little bit, right? So my mom, I was raised by a single mom, right? So even though my dad was around, he did not live in the home with us. So very similar to probably your parenting situation, a little bit less, right? Except for the fact that I lived with my mom during the week. I saw my dad on the weekends. And so my mom and my dad had me very young, right? And so they were both high school educated, but neither one of them at the time that they had me had gone to college or any of those things. And so I'm so fortunate that my mom introduced me to this doctor. And so she very much had the foresight to say, there are things that you can learn from her that I can't give you. Right. And so my mentor introduced me to art, and she took me to museums and galleries, and she introduced me to her network of Black professionals. And I had no idea that Black professionals existed, right? And so much about representation is being able to see yourself reflected. And I remember thinking to myself at that age, I want to have this. I want to have a core group of friends where we rent a house every summer at Martha's Vineyard, right? I want to have this core group of friends that we travel to places.
Trust and all this.
Exactly.
Yes.
But I had no idea that there were so many Black educated, upwardly mobile professionals if it wasn't for this particular mentor. And she introduced that to me and really set the expectation for me that this was what I was to achieve as well. You know, since that time, now my mom is college educated. She has 2 college educated children. And so that mentorship was so valuable for me growing up. Now, as a professional, I'd probably say that the mentor who I rely on the most is our chief HR officer. She is a Black woman. And a wife and a mother, and just amazing. And so in the same way that representation counts, I had not seen a Black woman as a chief HR officer until her.
Wow.
And so she said to me once, "Do you want to be a chief HR officer?" And I said, honestly, I never considered the possibility until I saw you in the role. And so that's the reason why mentorship counts, because
You need to see people.
you need to see
and then you
people.
follow. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
You need to see people who look like you. And so that's the reason why you should care about, when you look around the room, is everyone represented? Because that is what's going to be crucial for our industry, is that those entering the industry need to see people who look like them.
Absolutely. Hey, wrapping up.
We're wrapping up already.
It is 50 minutes.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
The time flies, and I probably can sit for 3 hours here. But if you have one wish for the future,
Yes.
and I would grant you that wish, what would that be? If you have the chance now.
Just one?
Yeah, one. That's
One?
bad.
If I had one wish for the future, my wish would be that the world gains an understanding that race and ethnicity, sexual orientation, these aren't things that need to divide us. And so we can love everyone regardless of immigration status, right? And so, that's the hard part of my work, is that in so many ways, people think that someone has to lose. And that's not the case, right? We can all rise together.
Yeah.
We can all win together. And so that is, if you granted me that one wish, my one wish would be that we come to that realization all together.
Wow. With this ending words, Ronisha, I'm super excited. That was amazing.
Thank you for
that.
having me.
That was great. How do you say? Go Buckeyes? Or what is that?
Go Bucks.
Go Bucks. There you go.
So there's two ways,
Okay.
right? We say go Bucks, right? And then when you see another Buckeye, right, I would say OH.
OH.
Yes.
Okay.
And then their response is IO. It's, yeah. So like if I said to you OH.
IO.
Exactly.
And with this, we'll end. Thank you very much. Take a good one. Ciao, ciao. Bye.
Bye.
That's it for this episode, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to share your thoughts on this episode and everything else that is going on at Smack with us by checking out our website at smack.media or connect with us on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Instagram. We'll see you next time.
Hi guys, thanks for tuning in again. If you'd like to hear more from us, check this out over here. And if you'd like to stay up to date on all things Smack related, follow us below. Thanks and see you soon.